All right, welcome to Plugin School. Oh, I typed the wrong thing here. Building plugins. We're calling this Plugin School 201. Last week was Plugin School 101 using plugins, and now we're going to build them. My name is Caristina LaFay, and I'm your host. My wonderful co-host is Tomas. Feel free to introduce yourself in chat if you'd like, and mute your mics if you haven't already. That way we don't get any background noise interrupting class. Tomas has shared the link to both my YouTube channel, where you can find recordings of all of my plugin school classes, and to the plugin directory itself, which I find very handy to bookmark because that makes it easier to get to whenever you need it. As always, if your screen doesn't look like mine when you're using Sudowrite, that's because I use one of the dark themes. It's easier on my eyes. Yours will look pink if you're using the default. So with that in mind, let us go to, well, I was going to say you can go to the plugin directory by clicking on Explore Plugins if you don't already have it bookmarked. And when you're ready to make a plugin, you're going to click on Create Plugin, this button right here, and it'll bring you right to this screen. And the things that we need to know for making a basic plugin are your name, description, visibility, instructions visibility, category, your instructions, and you can choose whether or not to enable Story Bible. So we'll go over these things here. The name, I'm trying to remember now what it was that I decided we were going to build together, because it was Tomas's suggestion. Okay, plugin that reads brain dump, genre, and synopsis and spits out a list of settings and locations. Yes, I like that idea. Okay. So what should we name it? List my settings. And let's grab some emojis. I need to open my Emojipedia for this. I always use sparkles at the end of my plugins to distinguish that I made it. That way it's easier for me to locate my own plugins in my plugin menu, because the drop down gets very cluttered. I know they're working on that, but right now it's hard to work with. So I also want a distinctive emoji at the beginning that will help everybody understand what my plugin is about when they look for it and find it in the plugins directory. Since we're going for settings, let's go for, well, let's see what happens if I just type in setting. Hey, let's go for this sunset one. Why not? That's a setting. Got a city with the sunset. The description will be, this plugin will read your genre, brain dump, and synopsis to create a list of settings where your story takes place. Now, if I was, when I finalize this to publish it, I'm going to make the description more robust, because this is how this is what everybody will read to know whether or not they want to add the plugin and use it for their own purposes. So you want to be as descriptive as possible to let them know, and to remind yourself once you've built your plugin, because sometimes you forget how each of your plugins works. It's handy to be able to pull it up and see, oh, that's right, that's what I told it to do. But for now, this plugin will read your genre, brain dump, and synopsis to create a list of settings where your story takes place. Now, under visibility, you can either choose to have it published so everyone can see your plugin listed in the plugins directory, or you can have it unlisted so only you and anybody that you share the link with can access it. Unlisted plugins are beneficial when you first start creating it, in case you want to save your work and publish it, so that if if you're expected, if you have a lot of browser crashes like I tend to have, you might want to publish your plugin before it's ready to let everybody see it. So mark it as unlisted first. Instructions visibility. This is completely up to you. If you would like to have, yeah, Tomas, sometimes you see a plugin you made and wonder, what the hell were you going for? Yeah, that's me too. I'm like, okay, I think I know, but let me look it up again. So for instructions visibility, you can either choose to hide your instructions or keep them visible. If, you know, if you want everybody to be able to see exactly what your plugin does, the instructions that you give to whatever model you choose to run it on, you can make that visible. Or if you're feeling a little more protective about it for any reason, there are lots of reasons. And I'm not going to say any is more or less valid than the other, but you can choose to hide the instructions so that it doesn't like bog down the view on your plugins listing in the plugins directory. I'm going to choose a category, and I guess this would be, we make this world building, or is this scene enhancement? Narrative and plot. For the time being, I'm going to choose world building, because I suppose if you have a fantasy thing going on, yeah, that could be world building. The category is how you can navigate the plugins menu. So if you're looking for certain types of plugins, if you click on world building, it's only going to show you the world building plugins, so you don't have to be bogged down with everything else. And so then you get to your instructions, where you're going to tell the LLM what you want it to do. Right now we are in basic mode, which means we're not fiddling around with the models or any other settings at the moment. We're just going to tell it what we want it to do. And yeah, sometimes sometimes your instructions are just plain chaotic and ugly, and yeah, it can be very confusing for people who may not understand all the technical things. If you're making a robust plugin, but we will get to that when we switch from basic to advanced. Right now, we're going to do some basic instructions, which doesn't require too much knowledge of programming, coding, whatever. We're going to enable story Bible data, which you don't have to do. But if in this case, we're going to make this story Bible aware, because we want to use the genre, brain dump, and synopsis to create a list of settings where our story takes place. So this is where we say brain dump, genre, synopsis. Okay. Looking at the brain dump, I like capitalizing the story Bible categories just because it makes it easier to look at what my plugin's doing. You don't have to, it's not case sensitive. Look at the brain dump, genre, and synopsis. Create a list of settings where this story will take place. Let's see. Do we want it to provide a few brief sentences of description for each location? I was going to set this up so it already had some of the example story Bible data in it, but I did not get to that. So let me go pull stuff. Okay, we're going to want brain dump. We're going to want genre. And we're going to want synopsis. I have a story I figured I'd use for class because I haven't started writing it yet. It is its working title is Dystopian Les Miserables. And I hope to have some fun with this. There's my brain dump so far. It's not actually complete, so it might get a little tricky here. So we're going with dystopian. We're going to say post-apocalyptic because in this story there is a coup. And I don't have a synopsis. Let me quickly generate one in my project.
You might not need it. I mean, it shouldn't give you an error if you don't have it,
That's
right?
true. That's true. Although this is, ooh, I'm liking it. So I think we'll just wait a moment. We're
But
at,
are you running that
okay,
synopsis?
there we go. It gave me names for characters I hadn't renamed yet, so I like it. And it's not going to look at any of the other fields, so we don't need to worry about changing them from the default here. We're going to click Run Test because you always, always, always want to test your plugin before you publish it. Although, like I said before, you can publish it to save it and keep it unlisted. But before you make it available to anybody else, you have to run a test to make sure it works and does what you want it to do. So the test result, remember, we gave it the instructions, only 2 sentences. Looking at the brain dump, genre, and synopsis, create a list of settings where this story will take place. Provide a few brief sentences of description for each location. So in this test, it looked at the brain dump, and then it looked at the genre, and then it looked at the synopsis. And now we have card output. These are the settings it created for us. I have the NOC Enclave, a fortified area within the former New England region, now under the control of the National Order Corps. The Enclave is a stark contrast to the desolation outside its walls, providing relative peace and safety for those who comply with the regime's rules. We have a ruined cityscape. We have the abandoned prison, where Vin Valrin served his unjust sentence. The sewer network, which is also an important setting, and the resistance hideout. where Marcel and his band of revolutionaries gather to plan their attacks against the NOC. Surrounded by nature's beauty, yet shrouded in secrecy, this setting highlights the hope and determination of those fighting for freedom. These settings provide a diverse backdrop for the story, showcasing the contrast between oppression and resistance in a dystopian world shaped by injustice and defiance. So this was I like this. This was pretty good, especially since all we did, like I said, was we gave it 2 sentences. We checked 3 boxes, and yeah, it gave us some pretty good stuff. Although I think I'd like to see what it does if I take away that synopsis, which I didn't originally have. And we'll just see how it does without that, because you can run plugins without all of the Story Bible information. They just tend to work better if you use all of them that are listed. So now we have Enclave of the NOC, formerly New England, United States. We still have the abandoned prison facility. We have a rundown urban slum. We have the resistance hideout in the underground tunnels, which is the sewers, and the overgrown nature sanctuary. So it essentially gave us the same 5 locations, but it gave them slightly different descriptions. Again, these settings offer diverse backdrops for different aspects of the story, weaving together themes of oppression, rebellion, survival, and hope within a dystopian landscape shaped by political upheaval and social injustice. Although now I'm going to put synopsis back, because now we're going to see what we can do if we switch on advanced mode for the plugins. And that gives us a lot more options for fine-tuning our plugin to make it a little more granular and get more out of it. Now you can see when you switch from basic, see it went right from up here to instructions and then just the publish button. But when you switch to advanced, you then get this field with preceding text, where you give it minimum words and maximum words, highlighted text, minimum words, maximum words. This plugin doesn't actually use either one of them, so we don't need to change those. But if you wanted to, you could. By default, in basic mode, plugins look at both preceding and highlighted text. As you can see here, now we can see prompt variables, which are highlighted text, preceding text, brain dump, genre, style, synopsis, characters, outline, scene summary, is Story Bible active, and chapter beats. I don't know if I've seen anybody actually use the is Story Bible active thing, at least not with visible instructions. So I'm not quite sure how I'd write a plugin with that, but it is available as an option. The default system instructions are: you are a helpful writing assistant that will follow the directions of the user. And then user instructions, like I said, by default, it gives preceding text and highlighted text to the plugin, or to the LM to run your plugin. So if you don't want it to use up all those words that translate into the credits it costs you to run a plugin, if you're not using that, delete it. That's another reason. Even if you do nothing else when you're making a plugin and you are in basic mode, but you're like, okay, but it's taking in all this extra information and making it more expensive to run the plugin than it needs to be. You can just switch to advanced and just remove that part. Because all we need here is, here's a brain dump of the story, and there's the code for the brain dump to get pulled in. The genre of the story is genre. Here's a synopsis of the story, synopsis. And these are the instructions that we wrote originally. So this is how it looks when it's sent to whatever model you use to run your plugin, which is what we'll get into next under AI options. We're going to toggle this by clicking on the little arrow. And now you get all of this additional information, including engine, temperature, frequency penalty, presence penalty, stop, number of generations, and maximum output. I'm going to switch back to my document over here so we can go over what each of those things actually does. The engine, that's a drop-down menu where you pick which AI model the plugin will use. Temperature, you choose a number between 0 and 1.0. The higher the number, the more creative the model will be when interpreting your plugin's instructions, and lower is more focused. It will do exactly what you say. Frequency penalty, if you have a negative value, it's going to be more likely to use cliches and tropes in the output, and a positive value will make that less likely to happen. Presence penalty, a negative value will stay on topic, and positive value will introduce new ideas. So in this one, we might actually adjust the presence penalty to see if it can be a little more creative with the locations it gives us. Stop, it allows you to create words or symbols that tell the plugin where to stop. This is another thing that I've never personally used when building a plugin. But there are certainly use cases where you would want to, otherwise it wouldn't be an option. Number of generations, how many cards you want the plugin to create. Now, if you are building a plugin that's going to have a lot of context, so it's going to be looking at a lot of information that the input counts when it deducts credits because it has to process all the information you give it. And if you're looking at like your entire story Bible, or you're allowing people to highlight like entire chapter or an entire novel based on the model you choose and how large its context window is, it might make more sense to say you want more cards than just one. Most of my plugins only have just one card output. But if you want to decrease the cost of something that takes a look at a lot of information without making people run it multiple times to get different results, you can increase the number of cards. I think that you can go up to 3. Yeah, you can go up to 3 cards here. And the maximum output is when the plugin will stop outputting words if it reaches this length. By default, it's set at 2,000 characters. And that's because the default model it uses for basic plugins is GPT 3.5 Turbo. The description's now truncated here, but it's inexpensive and it's good at following instructions. And it works with, I believe, up to about 3,000 words of input plus output, which is why maximum output is set at 2,000 characters so that it can look at about 1,000 words of input too. But you have to also take into account that this number of words allowed for input and output, the input also includes all of the words you use in the instructions here for system and user. Those all count when it totals up how many credits you're going to use. So I think we might want, I'd like to see maybe more than 5 locations. So I think I want something with a little more context here. So I'm going to pick GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K. It's got it's got medium cost to run, which isn't bad compared to more expensive models like GPT-4, Claude 2, and Claude 3. Any of those are going to be your more expensive models to choose. But you can scroll through this box to see what all the available models are and what they allow you to do and how much they cost. But like I said, for this one, we're just going to do the slightly larger context GPT 3.5 Turbo 16K. A little above pleather, huh? Oh boy. Oh, what was the number I wanted to play with? It was the presence penalty. I'd like it to introduce some new ideas, looking at the stuff in our story Bible. So we're going to turn it up to 0.5. That's double what it was before. I don't know how much of a difference that will make, but we can check that out. And let's put the maximum output at, we'll say 3,000. I forgot that scrolling while I still have my cursor there would change the number. One thing I did learn from some other people chatting in Discord was that if you instruct the model to use as many tokens as it can, you can get more output out of it instead of, it stops after 5 locations like we saw. So I'm going to say maximize output of up to, oh gosh, now I have to figure out how many tokens. No. I forget how many words equates to how many tokens. Let's say this is 2048. Because I know it's not gonna be, or is it, no, 2148 would be twice 1096. And we'll see if that gets us more locations. That's a little more technical knowledge than you need to use there, but this is a trick that I learned the other day that I haven't tested out, so I'd like to see what it does. So we're going to go back down to our run test button, and we're going to see how much different the results are. So here's the input. Again, the input's going to remain the same. Card output we have here. This gives us, oh, this gave us 10. This gave us 10 locations, which is helpful. We have the NOC headquarters. We have Vin Velrin's hiding place tucked away in the decaying industrial district. We have the Enclave, a secluded neighborhood within the NOC territory. We have the Foster Care Center. Once a bustling school building, it's now been converted into a government-run facility for orphaned or abandoned children. The cries of neglected children echo through its dimly lit corridors. That's a nice bit of atmospheric description that will, dilapidated and lacking resources. It serves as a stark reminder of the healthcare system's intentional dismantling after the coup. The Resistance Hideaway, Jarek's prison compound, Alana's brothel. Oh, right. That's the name it gave to the Fontaine character from Les Mis. The Battleground, Vin Valrin's childhood neighborhood, and the Sanctuary. Hidden within an abandoned church, the sanctuary offers solace and refuge to those fleeing persecution. Its stained glass windows cast vibrant hues upon worn pews and dusty relics, providing a place of respite for Vin, Cora, and other individuals seeking shelter from the omnipresent danger of the NOC regime. That's pretty cool. Because my Jean Valjean character and the Cosette character would definitely be looking for sanctuary here. So I'm gonna say that just by changing the model and adding one additional sentence and changing the number for the presence penalty to give it room to have some new ideas, that provided some interesting results. Just for fun, let's turn out the presence penalty to 1 because I don't know what that will do. And since we're learning how to build plugins, adjusting the numbers is something we would want to do. Again, the input is going to be the same, and the output, oh, it is going, we got 15 of them now, because it was allowed to come up with some new ideas. We still have the NOC headquarters, Vin Valren's childhood neighborhood, the Enclave, Jarek's prison, Alana's tenement building, the rebel hideout, the barricades, Vin Valren's sanctuary, Thorn's scam operation. Oh, Thorn must be the name it gave the Thenardiers. Marius's didn't change that name. Former family mansion, NOC propaganda headquarters, underground resistance tunnels, Cora's hidden hideaway, the NOC re-education center, which is a good location to have in a dystopian regime, and Vin Valren's final stand, where he faces off with Jarek, his relentless pursuer. Now, this I have to give this credit because I did not put in a lot of details in my brain dump and therefore in my synopsis. I said I wanted it to be based on Les Miserables, and it extrapolated a lot from that, which is really pretty cool. Yeah, turn up your presence and you get some really cool stuff. What are the other? Temperature and frequency penalty. The temperature will also make it more creative. So let's turn this up to 1. And let's turn the frequency penalty down to 0. And let's see what that does too. Oh, and I'll show you what changing the number of generations does too. We've set that to 2. So here we have our input, which we scroll past. Card output. Let's see how many. Note, adaptation from Les Miserables allows for flexibility in settings to create a unique dystopian world while still retaining elements inspired by Victor Hugo's original work. Feel free to expand or modify these settings to suit your vision for the story. So this only actually gave us 10 things. But we got a couple of, we got the Thorn House, we got the Enclave of Hope, the University Ruins, Cora's foster home, barricaded streets, communication hub. This did not give us 2 cards though. So what's up with, oh, it was too many characters.
But also test will never get more than 1 card.
Oh, it won't? Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you have to actually publish and if you want to see more than one card.
Okay, then you know what? I'm gonna publish this. And now it's available here by URL. It's not currently public because I chose to have it unlisted for now, but you'll see it gives my author name is in the created by only one user because it's just me because I just published it, and it shows you that it's medium credit usage by giving it 2 out of 4 little lightning bolts. So, and this is what you'll see if I were to publish it like this right now and list it in the plugin directory. Before I do that later, I will be adding to this description because it's not very helpful. Well, I suppose it gives you a general idea, but it doesn't tell you like the maximum number of characters or anything like that. Actually, I need to change projects then. And I need to refresh my screen. Because if you add a plugin in one tab, but you have a document open in another tab, or even if you navigate like from here to, you can't see it very well. I didn't think it was here until I asked about it. I was like, why isn't there a link back to the home page from the plugin directory? And it's because of the theme I have, the dark theme. So, but you can navigate that way to here. But you have to refresh your screen or else it will not appear in your plugins menu. And now we need to see where it put my plugin in my plugins menu. I am looking for the particular emojis to help me find it. Here it is, list my settings. That's not exactly the best name for it either, so I'll come up with a new name for it later. So, okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The token count for the settings has exceeded the limit, so I will stop here. Okay, so I'm going to edit that. Since it is something that has a larger context allowable up to 12,000 words, we're gonna say maximum output of 10,000 words, because why not? We are going to have to refresh again to make that happen. And I'll run the plugin again once I find it again. List my settings. And this is card 2. It is. So, since we asked it to give us 2 generations, which means 2 cards, we've got this set that it gave us, and also a second set in case we wanted more than just the results from the first run. So we could pick and choose what we like out of both of them. For this particular plugin, that's not necessarily the most helpful thing to do, but I wanted to show you what it would look like if you ran a plugin with 2 cards. And just to evaluate what medium cost means, I ran it twice, and the first time it was 1,391 credits, and the second time was 1,181 credits. And that's not a bad That's not a bad cost for what we do here. I can make a Notion document, if you would like to go with the recording. I'm not quite sure what I put on it. I can put, I can put all of this information into a Notion document, so that you can refer to it. And I'll put the link to that in the description of the YouTube video when I upload the recording. But yeah, I don't actually need 2 cards for this plugin, so we're going to save it with 1 card. And that is how you build a plugin from scratch. We're going to do some question and answer time, but first I'm going to stop the recording so you don't have to feel self-conscious about asking your questions for posterity. So thank you for coming to class. This was Plugin School 201, Building Plugins. Next week, we'll be getting back to demonstrating different types of plugins. And I think it might be cliches, reducing cliches next week. I hope to see you all next time.